It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Before we get to the meat and potatoes portion of it.
All right. You brought food.
Over the our Christmas vacation was your birthday, right?
Yeah. I turned 60.
Yes, and so we had talked about that last week.
Right, yeah.
And so as I told you yesterday, I think it was, I don't know if it was on the air or off the air. I think it was off the air.
Right.
Just because we were talking about it, all of a sudden on my YouTube, it's like, did it pick up in my microphone of my phone? Because all of a sudden, over the weekend on YouTube, I started getting all these. I love it on YouTube because I pay. I think you do the same thing. We don't get the commercials.
Yeah.
So I'll just put it. I'll start watching a video and just let it run.
Right.
And so basically it goes in YouTube Shuffle.
Right.
Well, all of a sudden, all these things started coming up about the things you should or should not do after 60 years of age.
Yeah.
And I'm like, where'd this come from?
Yeah.
Go, oh
you need this things you shouldn't do after 70.
Right,
but it came up. I can almost guarantee you it came up because your phone, you have an Android.
Yeah.
I think we have the exact same phone.
Yeah, we do.
And I have Android. I have Android Auto in my truck, so I can just say this is gonna screw some people up. This happened to me the other day because a comedian used this, and I was listening to this comedian, and they said, "Hey Google," and then my Google went off. How can I help you? Basically, in my truck because the comedian said it. So I just set someone's Google off. Hey Google, play the Osmonds. Anyway.
Wait a minute. That's my time.
Exactly. But the devices are intended to listen. And I just saw this story where a guy is suing, I think it's Toyota, because he found out that his vehicle was tracking him. And I thought, I didn't read all of the story. But do you know how it works if you buy a modern vehicle and you have, if it's GPS enabled, if you have,
right,
all of that, and I don't know how many different apps that I've installed on my truck after I bought it, and it's 2 years old. I bought it right about 2 years ago now, and it's intended to basically help you get where you're going, the GPS thing. I can sit there and ask, countless questions to Google, just like you can with Alexa and everything else, and it'll respond if you phrase the question properly, and it'll respond, based on, this is from Wikipedia.com and blah, 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 and it'll tell you. And I saw this article about someone suing Toyota because their car is tracking them, and I thought that everything is tracking you. By the time they got around to TikTok and the government, we bought TikTok from China. It was at first, it started on Joe Rogan's podcast where it was like, well, do you understand if you've got TikTok on your phone, because the Chinese government has control of TikTok, they know what people are doing all the time. They can track you. They can hear things. They can listen. They can do this. They could, all the stuff that, came out of that conversation led to Congress acting on that. And the president, that was part of his agenda, too. And I thought, well, you're so far behind the curve. This is like now taking your shoes off at the airport because of Richard Reed, the shoe bomber. Which is something that happened years ago. You're reacting to something where the technology is accelerated now.
It's like, don't you know what's going on?
TikTok isn't even the beginning of it.
Right. So there I am, and it's all these things. Don't do this after 60. Don't do that after 60.
Yeah.
Don't do this after 60.
Right.
And all of a sudden it was like the 8 reasons why you should not find a significant other after the age of 60. And I'm like, okay, this one I'm going to stick with just to see what they have.
Right.
And I guess the first couple were basically financial things. You've saved up your entire life, you're retired and everything else.
Right.
And, it might not work out and you're going to lose a ton of money in this entire deal. Or, she or he might get sick and then you have to support them.
Right.
The other thing was, well, you've experienced freedom. And this is that if you were single at 60, no matter whether you were married or whatever, it said you probably spent a significant time on your own and things like that. And I went, maybe something like that would be a big thing. Because a money thing, people would say, well, love. But then it got to the one point where I went, I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be single the rest of my life. And you know what that one was?
What?
It said one of the biggest problems of people getting together in their older age is and then living together or getting married, whatever, is the fact that you find out that older people like their house to be at different temperatures. And if you like your house to be 68 and the other one likes it to be 76, there's no way you're going to get along. And I went, oh, my God, that's true.
Oh, no, that would be true. Luckily, my wife and I, who have been together for the better part of 40 years now, and the financial thing, too, is something big. Because there was a rumor going around for the longest time that I married my wife because her uncle left her a ton of money. But the truth is, I would have married her no matter who left her that money. And that was
very good,
from the very beginning, that was what was on my mind. But if you touch my AC in the summer, I know 1 degree. I feel it.
I know.
I feel it. Who touched, because I can do it with my phone from anywhere in the world. I can change it. But if I feel that 1 degree, and I mean 1 degree, I have looked out at my phone. Hey, did you, look over at my wife? Hey, did you mess with the AC on the other side of the house? Yeah, well, I just turned it up because I was cold when I walked in or whatever.
Well, I talk about visiting my dad, and I don't stay at his house anymore. I stay at a hotel because he took the room that I was in.
Right.
And so there was just no room available for me there. But staying in the hotel, I realized, oh my gosh, I don't have a temperature problem because when my mom was alive or my dad, they're like the Seinfelds.
Yeah.
If the Seinfelds at Del Boca Vista, it's 85 degrees. No, they didn't keep it that high, but it would be like 75, 76.
Right.
I can't sleep like that. I need I need like 68.
I got to be cold. Yeah.
70 is like the minimum for me, and I just can't sleep. And sleep is absolutely imperative when you work this particular shift. So when I saw that one, I didn't need to go any further. That was like number 3 on the list. They had like 8 or 9 reasons why not to get married or find a significant other after the age of 60. After the temperature thing, I went, you've convinced me.
Yeah, it's rare that my wife is, my wife is a little bit chilly in the house. She comes in, she's been, I don't know, working outside or whatever, and then she comes in, and she's a little bit cold. My answer to it is as any loving husband would say, is get over it. But no, we both like it very cold. We both like.
Well, see, that's the thing. But that's the thing you need. I didn't even think about that. That needs to be a question,
right?
That you.
We didn't think of that. We were in our early 20s when we got together.
Yeah, but I really didn't care.
We didn't think of that.
I didn't care in my 20s.
Yeah, right.
Temperature wasn't as important in my 20s as it is now.
Yeah.
In my late. Well, whatever I am now.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
All right. So, yesterday, they did it.
Mm-hmm.
They asked the question. When Justice Jackson was going through her confirmation process,
right,
and when she could not, she was asked, can you define, what a woman is, and she couldn't do it.
Right.
She said, I'm not a biologist. And we said, that's disqualifying. And we were furious at the Republicans for not bringing that up.
Right.
If you cannot define what a woman is, then it's impossible for you to rule on any case that comes before you that has to do with the transgender movement, feminism, women's rights in any way, you can't do it. If you can't define what you're talking about legally, you need to be disqualified. We said you need to be disqualified or you're lying under oath, one or the other.
Right, yeah.
It's one or the other. You're not qualified to serve, and Republicans, not a peep. Not a peep. The media did. We mocked it like crazy and said it at that time and said, Republicans, where are you?
Because she's either lying or she doesn't know the difference between and can't define a woman. And either way, she's disqualified. It's a disqualifier either direction.
Exactly. It came up. It came up.
Yeah.
This is Justice Alito at going back and forth with the ACLU lawyer. Here we go.
All right.
Is it not necessary for there to be, for equal protection purposes, if that is challenged under the Equal Protection Clause, an understanding of what it means to be a boy or a girl or a man or a woman?
Yes, Your Honor.
And what is that definition? For equal protection purposes, what does it mean to be a boy or a girl or a man or a woman?
Sorry, I misunderstood your question. I think that the underlying enactment, whatever it was, the policy, the law, we'd have to have an understanding of how the state or the government was understanding that term to figure out whether or not someone was excluded. We do not have a definition for the court, and we don't take issue with we're not disputing the definition here. What we're saying is that the way it applies in practice is to exclude birth-sex males categorically from women's teams, and that there's a subset of those birth-sex males where it doesn't make sense to do so according to the state's own interest.
Well, how can a court determine whether there's discrimination on the basis of sex without knowing what sex means for equal protection purposes?
I think here we just know that we basically know that that they've identified pursuant to their own statute.
Because they say so. That's the translation there. Because the person says so.
And just to read there's a couple of lines that doesn't cover to start it off. It said, Alito said, do you agree that a school may have separate teams for a category of students classified as boys and the category of students classified as girls? Yes, Your Honor. Well, if it does that, then is it not necessary for there to be, for equal protection purposes, if that is challenged under the Equal Protection Clause, an understanding of what it means to be a boy, a girl, or a man or a woman? The response from the ACLU lawyer, yes, Your Honor.
Mm-hmm.
And what is that definition for equal protection purposes? What does it mean to be a boy, or what, or a girl, or a man, or a woman? And that's where she had the statement where she ended by saying, we do not have a definition for the court.
Right.
Dismissed, gone,
right.
Bye.
It's basically whatever the person says they are.
Yeah.
No. Because if anybody can belong to a protected class simply by saying so, then there are no protected classes. I've been saying this for years. Because I could just say, well, I could, go back to the Civil Rights Act. And you could say, well, no, I identify as a person of this protected class.
Well, yeah. Well, as we've always said, and by the way, who set the political precedent on it was Obama.
Yes.
Then the entire thing about Rachel Dolezal.
Right.
If you self-identify sex-wise, why can't you self-identify race-wise?
Right. Because the question to him in his final months in office, it was an interview, and
I believe it was the Atlantic.
Yeah. Your mother was white, your father was black, but you identify as black. And his answer basically was, I've come to believe that race is a social construct.
Which is the same thing as sex.
Exactly, which means...
Same argument.
I can identify, then the whole Rachel Dolezal, this blonde-haired, blue-eyed girl who wore blackface and pretended to be black. Remember what she said after she was caught? Well, I never said I was African-American. I just said black.
the only person that has gone in blackface that the left has accepted.
Right, but that they actually defended.
Defended.
They went out and defended her. My gosh. And, again, it gets back to that one idea. If a person can belong to a protected class simply by saying so, then there are no protected classes. Right. If each individual says, well, nope, I belong, because then at that point, you can go to employment law, whatever it would be, any rule or law that governs this topic in any setting, but in the workplace. Well, you can't fire me. Why? Well, because I identify as, and I'm going to sue you if you fire me based on the fact that I am. So there would be no protected classes. None. They're out the window because, I don't know, you tell me. We make the joke sometimes when we say, well, this guy was going back and forth. Oh, well, we don't know if it was a guy because we don't know how that person identifies. And we make the joke about, and that's the joke is how the left allows that to be fluid. And, no, well, we don't know. And by the way, the word fluid is important because it can change. The joint edict by the Department of Education and the Department of Justice under Obama to schools was, if a boy goes into the office without his parents, without doctor, without anything, no therapy, and they say they're going to become they're a girl from now on, you have to treat them like a girl in every single setting within that school, any activities, including extracurricular activities, being on a team, and traveling with a team when it comes to hotel stays.
Yep. We are Red Eye Radio.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at J.J. Keller. At a roadside inspection, inspectors may ask to see supporting documents. These documents can include bills of lading, itineraries, schedules, or equivalent documents that indicate the origin and destination of each trip. They can also include dispatch or trip records, expense receipts related to on-duty/not driving periods, electronic mobile communication transmitted through a fleet management system, and payroll records, settlement sheets, or equivalent documents that indicate payment to a driver. Drivers using paper logs must also keep toll receipts. Supporting documents must contain the driver's name, carrier-assigned identification number, or vehicle unit number that can be linked to the driver, the date, the name of the nearest city, town, or village, and the time. This tip was brought to you by J.J. Keller & Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
We are Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome. Good morning. Seriously, that answer that the ACLU lawyer gave, really, you and I have been following the Supreme Court for a long, long time and analyzing what they do. I don't know of there might be. You mentioned something earlier. I forgot what you mentioned to me earlier.
Oh, the arguments on tariffs. And tax and the whole thing and how that fell apart.
Yeah, well, when they had to admit that it was a tax.
Right.
But this, I have never heard a worse argument that there doesn't need to be a definition to define what a law is. There doesn't need to be a definition of the terms inside of that law. It's whatever anybody thinks the term should be.
Right.
That's their defense. I have never heard a worse legal argument in my life.
Right.
There might be one, and I'd love to hear it because it'd be extremely entertaining. I just don't remember one right offhand.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio. from the Uniden America Studios.
And we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Now, understand that this the Supreme Court, whatever they decide on this, doesn't really. This isn't a national law that's being created, or this is just upholding whether it would be Virginia, West Virginia, and Idaho. The Idaho laws, and what it would do is it would give precedent to any other state that wishes to do it. But in essence, it's not I guess it would be a federal decision in that, depending on how they word it, that it would apply to most states. It would be a precedent that could be applied to most states. But I'm just amazed. I just never thought we would live in this era of complete stupidity and complete legal stupidity. If I was one of the judges, I would have to say, what the hell are you doing before the Supreme Court when you can't even define? You can't even define the main label of the word of the subject that we're talking about.
Well, when you're so engaged and you invest so much of yourself into these delusional thoughts that the left is promoting, that at some point you get, in this case, an ACLU lawyer who is so fully invested into this idea, well, if that man believes he's a woman, then he's a woman, to the point that she tries to make the legal case for it, which, of course, is bound to fall apart. It is mind-boggling because you look at it and say, all right, when they're on Capitol Hill, they're going back and forth with lawmakers, and they throw out BS all the time. In making the legal case before the highest court, you had to have known that was going to be the basis of the questions from a number of the justices, not just one. You had to have known that the basis for your argument is going to begin and end with the definition, which must be a legal definition, not some delusional thought, and not some. I don't know where you would even classify it. Loose thought that, because they think that.
Right, and so what you get from the left, because this is the bigger picture on not just this topic, but every topic out there.
Right.
Even though, again, I go back to the whole point of, do they believe that race is a social construct also that can be defined however you wish to define race? You're a racist because you're white. I'm not white. I'm black. Mm-hmm. Oh, well, then we must accept that.
Well,
it's like
right.
But the general argument is that law should be based. You put laws out there, but the words of the law don't mean anything. The words of the law can be interpreted by every citizen of the United States as they wish to interpret it, and that should be the law. I mean,
right.
that's what the plaintiffs were attempting to convince you of.
Right. That if they believe it in their mind, then it is reality.
Right. And whatever the word is in the law, it's whatever their own interpretation is.
Right.
I mean, seriously, when we talk about that the left wants complete and total chaos, that's what you get by trying to argue that opinion.
Right. When I bought the DVD set, I really thought I was going to look like the guy on the P90X commercials. That's how I identified while I was laying on the couch eating pork rinds.
Well, can a DVD be whatever you want it to be, though? Why does a DVD have to be a DVD?
Well,
I think a DVD should be streaming.
Well, I'm a qualified IT engineer. Well, what do you have to back that up? Nothing. I just say so. And I'll start with this. Have you tried turning it off and turning it back on again?
It's absolute insanity. Understand where the left is going.
Yeah.
And I think this is the debate yesterday, or the legal arguments yesterday, it showed the perfect example of what the left wants to get to. Interpret whatever you want. There is no law. There are no police.
Right.
There are no laws. There are no police. And because that's all negative, and we like criminals better than we like law enforcement.
Right.
And however you wish to define a law, you can do it. Thou shalt not steal. Well, what's stealing? I wasn't stealing it. I was borrowing it for a year.
Right. Well, Brian Regan had this bit. He says, I heard this argument before the city council, and the city said you can't build any buildings taller than 3 stories. And so he heard the argument by this company that wanted to build a 15-story building. And they said, well, we'll meet you in the middle, city council, and we'll build an 8-story building. And they were like, oh, okay, well, he met us in the middle, and we'll let him build an 8-story building. He goes, that's like saying, okay, you say it's against the law to steal any amount of money, right? And I think you should be able to steal from a bank $5 million. So let's meet in the middle. We'll make it legal to steal $2.5 million.
That's the logic.
It is just ridiculous. And you could just hear it. I mean, Alito, I think, did a good job. But we're here to legally define it. Oh, it's pretty much whatever they say it is.
Right.
Whatever the person believes legally.
We believe that the law means this, even though we have no idea what the subject of the law is.
Right. Now, on the robbing the bank thing, and by the way, I don't encourage that for anyone, but if I did that and then got caught, I would just call AOC and say, I'm just trying to feed my family, and I need you on my side for this.
I want to play this audio cut. This is Fox legal consultant Carrie Kupek talking about it yesterday.
If we don't even know what sex is, and cutting through all of the noise, that is the issue. We can talk about suspect classes and what's equal protection under the law, but at the end of the day, we're talking about biological boys and men who are imagining themselves to be women and wanting to participate in women's sports and thereby displacing women and taking away scholarship opportunities and the like. It's kind of shocking, Emily, I think, that we're even here at the Supreme Court having to discuss this and litigate this. But then again, we have Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, who refused when she was under questioning from Senator Marsha Blackburn. We all remember this a couple of years ago. She refused to identify what a woman is or define what a woman is. And it was she today who was really hammering the side of the female athletes and saying, well, why can't we make an exception for the transgender athletes? And, it got me thinking, the fact that we're even considering changing sports on its face for all girls and all women on a case-by-case basis for someone who says they are a girl or a woman, you know what that really is at the end of the day? It's misogyny in policy. If we don't even know it.
As we have said many times before,
right. It is.
The absolute identity politics, if you want to know which party officially owns racism by their own actions and by what they say, identity politics, judging people by groups, or the sexism, misogyny of the radical transgender movement, it's the Democrats. By the way, Senator Marsha Blackburn posted that audio cut and said, couldn't agree more, refusing to define the word woman should have taken Jackson out of the running for the highest court in the land. Well, why didn't you pound on it?
Why didn't you,
Senator Blackburn?
In that moment,
you're talking about it now. Why didn't you pound on it? Why didn't you get after that? Why didn't Republicans meet and say this is unacceptable?
Right.
We believe you know what the definition of a woman is, and if you don't, you should be disqualified because you can't rule on anything concerning women's rights,
right,
or you're lying under oath to the court.
Right.
Why didn't they say that?
Should
to
have been
Marsha
pursued.
Blackburn coming out and saying it years later she should have been disqualified.
Right.
Sorry.
She should have never made it to the court.
Nope. Never made it. You should have fought tooth and nail for that one. But you didn't. The Republicans wimped out again on that one.
Yep. Over and over we've seen that.
Yeah.
And, this, again, we knew that in the legal setting, you get to the highest court, well, it's going to be pretty clear. Because the left is delusional. And the only thing they have is, well, because the man says so.
Yeah.
Is that man is identifying as a woman. Because let's face it, what we're talking about here is men who are transgender women and believe they're women. And the whole sports thing and banning them from sports, the case really isn't girls who identify as boys. It's men identifying as women. This is misogyny at its worst.
Yep.
And the left has been defending it and basically telling girls to go sit down. You've had your time. You don't get a place on the team anymore if a boy decides he wants to be on that same team.
Why?
Because the man says so.
Because the man says so.
Which was the argument from the ACLU lawyer that you heard in that segment earlier.
Just think about it. Liberal feminism was crushed by misogyny.
Yes.
And it was the liberal feminist who crushed it with misogyny.
Yep.
The feminist movement said, the man says this, we obey.
Right.
That's the modern woman feminist today. Do what the man says.
Well,
follow what the man says.
Again.
No privacy for women anymore. Men's genitals in our face, in our locker room is okay. Why? Because the man says so.
They were pushing for segregation. Remember at the Ms. U, when the Carrot Top professor said, "Give me some muscle over here," and in the wake of that Ms. U protest, protest, they started saying, "We want to separate living quarters. We want to separate living quarters by race on campus."
Yep.
You want to go back to segregation?
Yep. That's where the left is today. Tell us where we're wrong.
Women's rights out the window.
Yeah.
Title IX. Oh. And they even said in that joint edict, Obama's Department of Justice and Department of Education joint edict, they even said, this is our interpretation of Title IX. Our interpretation. Why? Well, because we say so.
Right.
There is no legal basis for it whatsoever based on the definitions of the terms outlined in that joint edict. None whatsoever. And still today, technically now it's yesterday, the ACLU lawyer legally could not come up with a term or a basis for the terms that apply in order to offer legal protection.
And where did this misogyny all start? President Obama.
Yep.
We are Red Eye Radio.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
We are Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Interesting enough, though, what I saw in the media covering yesterday, I'm sure there's both sides protesting at the Supreme Court, but there seemed to be more focus on the people protesting against men playing women's sports in front of the Supreme Court. I found that in. Now, it may be just what I caught, but normally in the past, you wouldn't even see that side.
Well, and again, the results showed after the 2024 election that on women's issues, that was the biggest driver above abortion.
Yeah.
And so it wouldn't surprise me that it still has that kind of energy. And, because, again, as you pointed out, this isn't likely going to be a broad, it could be a precedent for states, again,
right,
that decide to create these bans and allow them to do that. And I could see the Supreme Court coming back saying, well, no, we'll leave that up to the states, which is kind of what they did with abortion. And so if you look at that, then, that if you listen to any of the hearing at all yesterday, then it seems like they seem poised to let those states
have those laws. It
Yeah.
does not necessarily mean that a state can do the opposite.
Right. Exactly. That would be a totally different case to look at. Yeah.
Top of the Hour News is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. I'm Gary McNamara. He's Eric Harley. Thank you so much to Facebook Memories for bringing back a memory from 6 years ago.
Yeah? What's that?
That's when I got up to go to work, and my hair was a little bit longer.
Yeah.
It was really, during COVID, my hair got really long, and then after that, I got sick of long hair. And now, long hair was over the ears for me. But, I didn't get my hair cut for like 4 months during COVID. It was really long. There's a couple of pictures of me. I'm like, my God, I look like, it was, look like I did when I was in college. But it was the day that I woke up, and my hair was, I took a shower, hair was out of control. Said, it needs a little hairspray. I put hairspray on it. I go, something's different. And I realized I picked up the kaboom instead of the hairspray.
Oy.
And I sprayed my hair with purple kaboom.
That's cleaner for the bathroom.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, I immediately went in and showered it off. And since then, my hair has been scum-free.
That's right.
So
that's good. No mold or mildew.
No mold or mildew and scum-free.
Right.
I think that says it on the kaboom list.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But before we get to the inflation numbers, it is football right now, right?
Yeah.
The culture of football.
Mm-hmm.
And the complaining about not enough free games to see. For example, the Green Bay-Chicago game on Saturday was Amazon Prime only.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the most streaming they ever had. Peaked at 34 million people watching it and had an average, I think, of 31. Now, you look at that and you go, okay, most people who wanted to watch it. Now, Prime is different, I think. It'd be interesting to see if it was, one of the other streaming networks. A lot of people have Amazon Prime.
Right.
For delivery. So, but still, when you look at it, the networks did wonderful. The Bills game broke all records. The Bills Jacksonville.
Yeah.
41 million.
Yeah. It's crazy.
41 million peak. And I'm sitting looking and I go, that must be the Josh Allen effect, because the question would be for me, the Green Bay-Chicago game was unbelievable. Chicago scored 25 points in the fourth quarter to come back and win the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking to myself, if that would have been on a network, would that have broken the record? Would that have broken records if it was on a TV network? But that's not my point. The point is the sense of entitlement that exists from people thinking that, the NFL, and I can understand it. I can understand it. But we use our taxpayer dollars to build our stadiums. Yeah, but it doesn't write in the contract that you get to watch the games for free for that. But this was this was reposted by the well-known liberal Mickey Kaus. And it was a letter written by a guy who's a Dallas Cowboys fan. And I went to his post, and he's an engineer, but he posts all the time on Cowboy stuff. So he must be, very, very bitter and everything else being a Cowboys fan. But he said, "This is a letter my uncle wrote to the NFL. I know many fans feel this same thing." Are you ready?
All right.
"I am writing as a lifelong NFL fan, a senior citizen, and a 74-year-old combat war veteran on a fixed income." So you basically covered everything there, right? "I have followed the NFL for what feels like my entire life. Watching football has been one of the few constants and joys I still look forward to each season." So obviously, he's not a Cowboys fan. "In recent years, the increasing movement of NFL games to pay-per-view and multiple streaming services has made it financially impossible for many of us to continue watching the sport we love. Seniors, veterans, and others on fixed incomes already struggle with rising costs for necessities and standard television service. Asking fans to pay for several additional streaming subscriptions places NFL games out of reach for people like me. For many seniors and veterans, football is more than entertainment. It is companionship, routine, connection, and for Cowboys fans, heartbreak, especially for those who, I keep throwing that in, and especially for those who are homebound or living alone, being priced out, feels like we're being quietly pushed aside after decades of loyalty. We are not asking for special treatment, only consideration. Please remember the fans who supported this league long before streaming existed. I respectfully urge the NFL to reconsider the continued scattering of games across paid streaming platforms and to keep games accessible through traditional television. Please do not leave seniors and veterans behind. We are still there, and we still care deeply about the game. Respectively, a concerned senior and proud combat war veteran." Now, the response from the well-known liberal Mickey Kaus, influencer for years, "My strong guess is that the cutoff of poorer Americans from free NFL telecast has done more damage to social equality and community than all the billionaire creation of the 21st centuries. The billionaires spend money, cocoon themselves behind 100-foot hedges, but don't directly affect millions of citizens' lives the way that this does." So making what the NFL's doing, this is weird for liberalism, making what the NFL's doing worse than the effect of the evil billionaires.
Who are also, some of them, NFL owners.
The owners of the teams. Now, one thing, first off, if he's 74 years old, then he knows. Even with the streaming services we have the availability for NFL football is way greater than it was before, simply because of this. Every home game in every market is televised for those viewers. Every home game when I was growing up, every single home game was blacked out. Didn't matter whether they sold out or not. I think that went all the way into the 80s. Might have been, it did. In the 80s it went to. And then remember, you had to sell out 72 hours before, so you could still sell out 48 hours before, and the game would not be on television. And I know it because, remember, the comeback game, the biggest comeback, I believe, is it still in NFL history? When Buffalo beat Houston and came back. Was not on local TV in Buffalo. It was blacked out because they did not sell out before the deadline. So there's actually more. He's trying to make the case that there's less availability than he's had his whole life, and that's incorrect.
I think less access, and that would be because if it's splattered all over, the different streaming apps, and you don't have the money for each of those streaming apps, you don't get to see all of NFL. Between back in the day,
right? But there's only a few games doing that. It's not every. You have NFL Prime on whatever it is. Is it Thursday night NFL Prime? But you used to have Thursday night football,
right?
But you're talking about most of the teams when you play on those are national games. You're not talking about your own your own home team. So
Right.
you've got that game, but the vast majority, you have many more free games that exist now. You just they're covering more of the games. A Sunday night game, most people will have their game that they can watch in their local market plus 2 to 3 other games on Sunday. You didn't have that back when I was growing up.
Well, I mean, you just didn't have it just seems like now Sunday you go from pregame starting at 3 a.m. all the way to midnight, sometimes with a late game. But the question would be where is it going? And what will if you start to shut out more and more, if you have to, if it's required that you, like for a super football fan that watches every football game back in the day that was made available, that was on television, you could go to one of the 3 networks. And, the schedule, again, was different. Now the question is, all right, if you want to be that same super fan, eventually you're going to have to be on a few different streamers.
Yeah, if you want to watch everything, you're going to have to pay. You're going to have to pay for it.
Right.
And the other thing is, for example, with moving so many games around, the return on the investment, for example, of the NFL Sunday ticket on Sunday isn't what it was 20 years ago, because they're not playing as many games at 1 o'clock and 4 o'clock Eastern time. And the game at night, Sunday night, that isn't covered by the NFL ticket.
Right.
So you may be, and then the international games being thrown in, which so many of them, and they're going to be coming up in the future. But I really think the argument the argument you're going to make, that's never going to work. That argument's been there. Good. I remember back in the 80s and the 70s, especially the 90s, people would be complaining when they still had the 70, whatever it is, the 72-hour rule. It'd be like, we're senior citizens and we don't get a chance to watch. It didn't work. That doesn't work with the NFL, just so you know.
Right, sure.
They're doing everything because of money, because that's the business that they're in. A lot of people used to complain, well, we're building these stadiums. Well, yeah, but your government isn't writing in. That means that all games must be free for the public to watch if we're going to build your football factories.
Yeah.
But then people get bitter because you can't afford. Most people cannot afford. I used to be able to afford to go to an NFL game. I was a kid. My first tickets we got, I think, were $3. We were in high school and got tickets. You can't do that anymore. A poor family or even a middle-class family cannot afford most season tickets to most professional teams now.
Right.
They can't.
Right.
I won't even go anymore because I don't see the return on the investment. The ticket prices that they have, it's like, no, it's not worth it.
Right.
It's simple for me. It doesn't matter if I could be a billionaire and still say, no, not worth it.
Then eventually, if they get to where a number of those games are scattered over different streamers, you're just going to have because the problem, it's the same problem with all content right now, is that it's so scattered, right? The NFL's making deals here and there, just like any content provider. They're a content provider. That's what they do. The TV deals have been the biggest deals historically, but now, you look at Netflix. It's a $400 billion company. It's about to close a deal on, if they get through it, Paramount's kind of stepping in the way, on Warner Brothers, which is the last gem in terms of content to jump on. But if they start throwing money at the NFL, or if Paramount loses this battle, this bidding war, whatever you want to call it, for Warner Brothers, and Larry Ellison's son, David Ellison, runs Paramount. So he's, they're well connected to the Trump family and everything else. I could see a Paramount going, okay, now we're going to have to get into something else. If we don't get the content that Warner Brothers had, we don't get to buy Warner Brothers, we're going to have to buy whatever, basketball, football, whatever. I don't know if there's much of a line for baseball, but there's because there are so many games.
The big monster is football. That's where the big money is.
And if you start if it starts being fragmented like entertainment has become, if that one entity, you know, the NFL, becomes fragmented across different platforms, streamers, then they're going to see more complaints like this. And I don't know where it goes. Like for me, I don't care. You know, it and when it comes to content, I don't care because I don't think Hollywood is offering up anything special right now.
Yeah,
I think
yeah, but you and
individuals.
You and I are getting entertained by YouTube.
Well, that's it. I was about to say individuals are creating much more compelling content.
Right.
And you know, I have a family member who's now monetizing on social media, and it's changed her life. And she also has a day job, and it's changed her life, you know, to the point of, oh, wow, I didn't realize. And it was what she thought was a mundane topic. It's a business topic, but she thought, oh, you know, I'm just going to put this out there. I wanted to make a video. And then, boom, it's where it took off. Well, you never know what entertainment's going to do, but you can see, like, Hollywood is just imploding. Hollywood right now is imploding. There are, you know, if your NFL, the NFL is still strong. They made a comeback from that stumbling after the Kaepernick years and the Black Lives Matter stuff. And, you know, they obviously didn't lose their base, and they're doing very well. But the question is, can you afford, and I'm sure they're asking this question at the organization, can you afford to scatter those games across more platforms? You know, when ESPN took on Monday Night Football, it moved from Disney owned back at that time, ABC, the ABC network. It moved from ABC network to ESPN. There were a lot of complaints, I remember. Well, I don't have cable, you know, and they, right. You know, but they made that choice to go there. They saw that as, you know, a good move.
But how many people don't have ESPN anymore?
Right.
Because they've canceled it or they've just pulled the plug.
Right.
When I pulled the plug, well, got rid of my satellite. Mm-hmm. Pulled the cord. It was a satellite dish, actually. Mm-hmm. When I pulled the cord, I don't miss it at all.
No, I don't. It's 8 or 9 years for me now.
There are so many free streaming services out there and everything else.
Yeah.
I don't miss it in the slightest.
Right.
And it's like, oh, okay, that national game is enough, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and if you know, you can even, you know, like for example, NHL Center Ice, it used to be quite expensive. You can get ESPN Plus, and you can get it for 1 month if your team's doing good, and it's, what is it, $12, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's not, you know, you can let it, you know, okay, I'm not going to watch it. But even the entire season, you can get for $50 instead of what NHL Center Ice used to be, which was like maybe $129.
Mm-hmm.
So even that's getting cheaper in that way, but you can get that on a streaming service and get it for 1 month.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to get it for the entire year. And so, you know, that's the thing a lot of people are doing, but even ESPN Plus doesn't carry what's on ESPN.
Right.
And so many people pulled the plug and went, well, I don't want ESPN. And now you can get the ESPN streaming, which is everything, but it's like $29, $39 a month.
Right.
People go, I'm not going to pay that for one channel.
That's like basic cable back in the day.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, but the fact that the left now shows you how strong of a football culture we have here when the left is trying to make the point that not showing the NFL games on free channels is as bad as billionaires.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa.
Mm-hmm.
We're Red Eye Radio.
This morning's USDA Farm Report is brought to you by House Products. Tested, trusted, guaranteed since 1920.
A slow evolution of weather patterns in the U.S. is already underway. And according to USDA meteorologist Brad Rippey,
for the West, that is problematic.
With a warm, dry regime raising concerns about western mountain snowpack levels in some areas. That includes the Sierra Nevada range in California, where near to above normal levels were reported recently.
Now that it has turned dry, we are starting to see those daily averages slipping a bit. We were effectively at normal in early January, but now here in mid-January, that is only about 80% of average for the date and only a little less than 40% of average for what we would expect to see pile up by April 1st.
That concern comes at a time when the Golden State is free from dryness and abnormal drought for the first time in a quarter century. Meanwhile, cold weather will slowly develop through the week in much of the central and eastern U.S. I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
This report brought to you by Cenex Fuels and Lubes.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
We are Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up on the bottom of the hour, economic stuff. The inflation breakdown, the numbers for December we'll have coming up. Plus, Gavin Newsom says the California wealth tax, extremely damaging if it goes into effect. We'll get to that.
Catch Red Eye Radio live every night on the Red Eye Radio app. Available in the App Store. Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Welcome. Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen when and where you choose. Well, the inflation numbers came out yesterday, and two challenges. Number one, if you look at it, the Consumer Price Index at 0.3, you extrapolate that out for the entire year, that would be 3.6%.
Right.
And 2.7 over the past 12 months.
Right.
When you look at where am I here? Let me get to. I've got so many windows open up with different inflation numbers on it, or different analysis on it. When you look at the things that people buy, now housing has come down a little bit, but housing isn't something, again, people buy every day.
Right.
You had, for example, let me just see here. All items 2.7%. Food at home 2.4%. This is how much it's increased since last year. Cereals and bakery products 1.5%. That's okay. That would be under 2%. Meat, poultry, fish, and eggs 3.9%. Dairy is down from a year ago. Fruit and vegetable 0.9%. Fruits and vegetables 0.5%. Non-alcoholic beverages 5.1%.
Like anybody cares. For the non-alcoholic beverages.
Exactly.
Nobody cares.
Food away from home 4.1%. On energy up 2.3% overall. Now gasoline down 3.4%. I did notice that. I mean, it went way down a couple of weeks ago, and now it's back up to like 260 in my area.
On Sunday, I paid $2.04, about 20 minutes north of here. That was good. Yeah.
It went up quick though. I mean, mine went up. Mine went up from 209 to 259 in one day. So, again, gasoline does that though. Problem is electricity still up 6.7% from last year. I noticed. I was shocked by my natural gas bill. I just got it in for December, which was relatively warm, but it was through the roof. Why? My gas fireplace. But 10.8% since last year. Those are things that people notice. Electricity, pipe gas services, food, which is still up. I mean, food is still up. You had Let me see. Apparel 0.6% since last year. That's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
All items less food and energy 2.6%. Rent of primary residence 2.9%. Medical care 3.5%. Motor vehicle maintenance and repair 5.4%. Tobacco 6.8%, but that doesn't matter. Alcoholic beverages have gone up less than non-alcoholic beverages, 2.1%. Airline fares down 3.4%. Motor vehicle insurance up 2.8%. I did see, though, that what was it here? Another article on home insurance is skyrocketing. Electricity and gas bills still up 7.7%. Tenant and household insurance 8.2%.
Oi.
Let me just see here. Furniture and bedding up 3.6%. Tools and hardware 5.4%. There's a question of how much tariffs is affecting that. The other thing is what people earn. The real average hourly earnings rose 0.7% during the first 5 months of this year. Income growth has stalled since then.
In fact, average weekly earnings declined 0.3% in December.
Yep. And as we said, one doesn't matter. What matters is, you and I always, when they looked at when they used to do the poverty analysis, and it was like, well, poverty is the least in California because look at how high the wages are. And we always said, well, that isn't how you make the judgment. You make the judgment between what you have to spend for the things that you need and what you make.
Right.
That's what decides. The money that you have after that is what actually decides how people view their quality of life.
Yeah.
Or their economic situation at that time. But real hourly earnings rose 7.7% during the first 5 months of this year, but income growth has stalled. For production and non-supervisory workers, real average hourly earnings have declined 0.2% since May. Monthly data for October and November aren't available because of the government shutdown. But average hourly earnings through December rose only 1.1% over the previous 12 months, which means you're not keeping up with inflation.
Right. Yeah. That's when adjusted for inflation, that's where that 0.3% comes in. The decline of 0.3% comes in for the month of December.
Yeah.
That's after adjusting for inflation. And so, we'll see where January goes. I mean, the president was doing a victory lap yesterday. The day before, he was putting out the message of, look, if SCOTUS decides against us, it's going to cost us hundreds of billions of dollars. And if you include the investment that's coming here as a result of putting the tariffs in place, it will end up costing us long-term trillions of dollars. There's still a thought that, and in fact, a lot of people talking about it, and I don't know why more and more believe it. It's probably just because, as we go on, it's getting closer and closer to the moment when SCOTUS is going to issue that decision, and we could see opinions, in fact, later today.
I thought we normally don't get them on a Wednesday.
No, we don't.
Yeah,
and I don't know why there is this thought, and it was across a few different news groups over the last few days. But typically it's Thursday and Friday. But the schedule hasn't been, for the Supreme Court, it can change very simply. So we'll see.
Again, but that's the challenge that you have. And as we have said, the biggest problem is, because, and the president will come out and say, but this was all caused, we know that.
Yeah.
It's all caused by Biden, and it was.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is, and we had warned the administration up front, don't do anything. You might not be politically wise to do anything that would put any pressure on upward prices. Whatever you wish to call it, inflation, upward prices, whatever.
Yeah.
because Americans, by the time he got into office in January, had already seen a 20 to 25% increase over the last 5 years. So even if you were keeping, if inflation kept coming down, it's still 2.7% on top of the 20 to 25% that we've seen over the last 5 years. People don't get relief. And if wages aren't keeping up with inflation, even if inflation is lower, it doesn't matter what you say.
Right.
It matters how people view their own economy. We warned the Biden administration of it, but the economy is doing wonderful. It's doing great. It's doing great. No matter doesn't matter how you wish to judge what the economy is. And this applies to President Trump, too. The only thing that matters is how people judge their own economy, not how you judge the overall economy.
Right.
It's not the macro, it's the micro.
Yeah, there you go.
And so that's a challenge that they have. No indication at all. I mean, when they're going to release that one, is it that decision on the tariffs?
Yeah, there isn't, and I don't know if a couple of days ago when the president posted that on Truth Social, if somebody at the White House received any kind of information through a leak or something from SCOTUS that it was coming down. Clearly, I mean, he's just trying to make the case. I don't know that there's any real belief that you're going to influence any opinions on the high court through social media, especially this late in the game. But making that case that Scott Bessent has made. Now, the president the other day said we don't even know who or how we're going to pay. And I thought, well, yeah, you do. Scott Bessent has said it. It's the importers. You'll have to refund. If there's an order to refund those tariffs from the Supreme Court, it will go to the importers.
And first, it will go to the people that actually sued.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
because they have standing.
Those
they
those
probably
cases.
have standing.
Right.
They have standing. Here's the question. I just thought about this. If that does happen, will they be owed interest from the federal government?
You can make that case. I could see the court applying that, but also I could see the court giving some leeway to the federal government. You're going to have to, the Treasury Department is going to have to figure out, how to make this happen, and here's your window.
You and I have looked at a lot of projections because of the president's tariffs, and the projections have been anywhere from it won't raise prices at all to it might raise prices, whatever. I don't know what the other end is, but I've seen this here where Mark Zandi from Moody's said the bottom line, I think inflation is still uncomfortably high. He says, and again, I don't know, this is from CNBC, I'd like to see how he figured this out and anybody else who could verify it through numbers that would make sense to me. Mm-hmm. How would you figure this out?
Right.
But Zandi says that tariff levels by President Trump have put upward pressure on the inflation rate, which I agree. It always would. If you raise the cost of doing business, there's always going to be that pressure. It's what does that pressure comes out? How does that pressure come out? Who eats it?
Right.
Does a consumer eat it? What is the percentage? What are the numbers? And do we have enough of a time span to see what the numbers are as to what tariffs have added overall and how you figure that out precisely? Zandi said, I think if it were not for tariffs, we would have been back at the 2% target already, but tariffs have pushed inflation a little over 0.5 percentage point. That's a quote.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Simplify that and show me the numbers. I want to know if that's...
Yeah, and I also want to see consumer behavior, how much consumer behavior has changed, because that affects, again, when we talk about, all right, the overall effect of tariffs, it changes the behavior in the consumer. If prices go up, they start buying fewer things. They adjust, the consumer does. And that's why there hasn't been, because remember when they put out that big, in fact, it was celebratory almost. See, it doesn't cause inflation. Well, because it changes the behavior. And if you change the behavior, then there's less, which means the demand goes down for those products. Then there's going to be that effect. That's, again, what we look at. And I would love to see that. I don't know that anybody has put that into some kind of overall algorithm type view of, all right, here's what's happened. Let's put this on a chart. Here's the consumer behavior also with pricing and other effects. When it comes to eggs and beef, and there are other things going on there aside from tariffs that are affecting grocery prices. Mm-hmm. So, you have to kind of factor all of that in. I wonder if anybody's done that. I'd love to see it.
We are Red Eye Radio.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
We're Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. By the way, Mark Zandi from Moody's said overall the inflation rate is higher than it appears because of the government shutdown, which ran from October 1st to November 12th. It prevented federal statisticians from collecting typical inflation data in October. Without that data, the BLS assumed, and we have talked about this before, that no price increases had taken place during the month of October for most categories of goods and services. Moody's estimates that the annual CPI inflation rate would be not 2.7%, but 3% if that data were included.
Interesting. By the way, opinions are slated on the calendar for SCOTUS today. There's nothing on the calendar for Thursday, but often, and they're including hearings. There's I think 1 or 2 hearings today. Opinions are slated for 10 a.m. Eastern today from SCOTUS. But often you see that if they don't get, to everything, they will add it. There's nothing slated for the 15th, Thursday. So they could add opinions to the calendar at some point today, but there will be opinions issued today according to the calendar at SCOTUS. We'll see if the tariff opinion is one of those.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.